Welcome for this Apitherapy video. This time we'll talk about beekeeping and specifically the topic of richness and poverty in beekeeping. This is interesting. Why? Because the bees are giving us certain examples. And being beekeeper, it's always interesting to be inspired by bees to get to understand better life. So yeah, it's a deep thing, and you'll see how it's connected to apitherapy at the end of the video. So, richness for the bees. If there's abundance, the bees will collect lots and lots and lots of nectar and pollen. They collect the pollen, they store it in the hive. They're rich. It's richness. And they're happy to share it with humans, with beekeepers. You might think, no, it's beekeepers stealing from the bees. Well, if you apply this to humans and beekeepers, sometimes human and beekeepers won't be respectful, and they will steal, meaning that they will actually deplete the beehives from their resources they need to keep going and to be optimal, to be healthy. But in the meantime, when there is abundance, it's okay to share. Totally okay, and actually the bees are happy to do it because the beekeepers will actually protect the bees from different things, from predators. You heard about the hornets, the wasps, and all this, from different types of problems the bees can encounter. The beekeepers will help them, will protect them. So there is some kind of exchange. And it's the same thing, it's a reflection of what happens between the plants and the bees. Because if you say the beekeeper is stealing the bees, well, might as well say that the bees are stealing the plants from their nectar and pollen. Somehow you know this is wrong, right? Deep inside. Why? Because when the bees go and collect the nectar and pollen, actually, what do? They collect the excess richness of the plants. They had an excess of sugars and water. So they created this nectar to attract the pollinators, to attract the bees. So the bees go on the plants and they harvest this excess of richness that the plants had, and in turn they actually pollinate the flowers. So they make the plants fertile. They actually take care of the fertility of the plants while doing that. So they reproduce the plants when they go and harvest this excessive richness, which is the nectar from the plants that is being offered. It's the same thing for the bees. Look at it the same way. The bees at some point can have excess abundance. Humans go there, take care of the bees, love the bees, have some exchanges, and the bees receive tons from it, from the beekeepers, if it's a respectful beekeeper. Now that was about richness. Let's talk now about poverty. For poverty, it's the same thing. When the bees don't have much, or actually the beekeeper itself, when it goes in the beehive, it harvests only what is in excess, and he leaves everything else for the beehive to function at its maximum optimal level. So this way, he works with the right understanding of poverty. Of course, I'm not talking about the bad poverty that brings famine to earth, that is bring, enslavement on earth and all different types of problems. I'm not talking about this. I'm not talking about this level, very low level of poverty. I'm talking about a poverty similar to what St. Francis of Assisi mentioned to us. You probably heard St. Francis of Assisi was saying poverty is good. Now we think he's a fool today because poverty is not good. It's the worst problem on the planet. But think about it twice. And there is a certain way of understanding poverty that is good. And it's this attitude of, I take for today exactly what I need for today. So when the beekeeper goes in the beehive, if he collects everything and ruins the whole hive apart, well, then he's destroying things. But if he takes only what's the abundance which is in excess, he's freeing this beehive from excess richness. And in turn, he gives this beehive love and care and everything to help this beehive to thrive, in fact. It's real beekeeping. It's a keeper of bees. And it's a great exchange for real. This is wonderful when this is happening. And this is the right understanding of poverty that allows that. It's just like the bees. When they go on the plants, Do they eat the whole plants? Do they destroy the plants? No. They take only the excess of richness that is on the plant, which is the nectar. You see? They cannot spare the leaves so much. Well, humans, we do eat leaves. We do eat even animals, some humans. So we don't do like this. We take the whole thing. We have a wrong understanding of richness and poverty. You see how the bees teach us richness and poverty principles? This is amazing. It really is. This real true poverty is I take only the excess of richness that there is available. And if there's abundance and I collect lots of it, well then I'm in richness. I'm in a place of richness. And then I'm ready to offer it to something on a greater plane, on a greater level. Think about it. The plants give their excess of richness to the bees, this nectar. So it goes from vegetal kingdom, let's say, to animal kingdom. So you see, it's going from one plane to another. So when we actually share our richness, when we have this right poverty attitude, the real good poverty, which is I take what I need, not more. Well then, if there's abundance and we collect more, then we share. And we share with ideas and projects that have visions that are of higher nature. From plants to animals. From us humans, when we have richness, what should we do with this richness? Well, we should share it in projects with ideas that are feeding something greater than us, something where spirituality is greater. This is the principle, of giving something, some spiritual movements, religions, they give, 10% to the church or something like that, right? It's a principle they apply. It comes from this understanding. And then the problem is the church itself, very often it's not using it well. It's not using it for something higher, what it would supposed to be doing for a topic that will bring great education to humans, that will let everything evolve, allow us to be connected with great principles ahead. It's not necessarily doing that. So you see, we have to be well educated on poverty and richness. There's good poverty and there's good richness, and we have to use both in our life, and the bees teach us that perfectly. Thank you very much for listening. See you another time for another Apitherapy video. Oh, by the way, I forgot. Why is that connected with Apitherapy? Because when we work with bees, first level is food, right? We collect excess of richness from the bees for food. But if there's more, if there's abundance from time to time, we can collect bee products for health as well. And it brings us not only survival and food, it brings us also a higher plane of richness. We bring it even further, which is health. And we then have a healthy planet, healthy people. See those principles? Poverty, richness, how the bees work with it? Isn't that interesting? Isn't that fascinating to see how the bees teach us many ways of lives? Thank you so much. See you another time for another Apitherapy video.